Pleasure to ask Colleen Hartland, MLC, to come to the stage.
I probably will take a slightly different view than our last two speakers, mainly because I live in Footscray and I've seen the damage done by Pokies. In my electorate, there are two particular problem areas. The city of Maribyrnong, the median income is $570 per week. There are 511 poker machines in 12 venues. Players lost $58.8 million, and which is the equivalent of $1,043 per adult. In Brimbank, the average income is $506 per week, and there are 953 pokie machines in 15 venues. In 2008-2009, $136 million was lost, the equivalent of $1,000 per head. Compare that to the city of Boroondara, where the average income is over double. There are 205 poker machines and 5 venues. $19.5 million was lost, an average of $150 per adult. It is no wonder the large companies and the AFL clubs target my community as a means of making huge amounts of money out of a community that simply can't afford it. But rather than just going on about what you all know, which is the evils of pokies, and I think, I would absolutely agree with the description that Tim Costello gave this morning, let's talk about the things that the Greens have done and will do. The Greens have secured amendments to the legislation setting up the new 2012 licences. And people may not realise this, but because the amendments were introduced and claimed by the government. And they were, 1, the introduction of a clause that requires pre-commitment technologies to be introduced on machines by 2015. Unfortunately, the wording of these clauses is extremely vague, so there is enough scope for the system to be weak and have no impact on harm reduction. It is going to require a huge campaign from the Greens and people in this room over the next 4 years to make sure that that wording is not vague when it comes into force. The banning of ATMs in gambling venues by 2012. Unfortunately, we've just in the last few days seen the government's lack of commitment to this measure by allowing e-cash machines, an EFTPOS device that allows cash out to circumvent the imminent ATM ban. And what is it that we'll do over this next term of government? Limiting pokies densities in local government areas so that no LGA could have more than 120% of the state average density of pokies, measured by EGMs per 1,000 adults. Reducing spin times, which the Minister currently has the power to do, so that it takes longer to play and money can't be lost so quickly. We will vote against any legislation that prevents local councils from issuing levies against gambling venues such as Moreland, as long as the money is put into problem gambling. Ensuring that EFTPOS facilities at venues do not permit cash withdrawals to circumvent the July 2012 ban. Removing banknote acceptors from EGMs, returning them to coin-only operation with a bet limit of $1 per push button, and reducing maximum credit balances. And these were also recommended by the Productivity Commission. Capping winnings payable by machines at $100 and winnings payable by a cashier at $250, with additional winnings being payable only by cheque. Prohibiting incentives to gamble such as free food, drink and enticements aimed at children, such as family fun advertisements. It's a really good family thing, take your kids along to the pokies. One of the main things that we want to do is to make sure that communities that are the most vulnerable to pokies are that will no longer happen. And of course the question everybody's going to ask, well, how do we deal with the issue of revenue from the... How are we going to deal with the fact that government is so reliant on these tax And ideally this would be done through an arrangement with federal government because they have a greater scope for refinancing the state's lost revenue. This is already in the early stages of development with Andrew Wilkie and Nick Xenophon, and the Greens will be working with the Gillard government on this. The Greens advocate a public health approach to gambling regulation, the kind that is taken with the road toll, smoking or HIV infections. We can bring a group of experts together to actually look at the causes and what we do about it. Unfortunately, this has not been allowed to happen in Victoria, and even after we did see a huge drop in pokey gambling after the prohibition of smoking inside. These are the things that we're on about. We will continue to campaign with you and the community, and we do absolutely recognise that pokies are a true evil and they do destroy communities like mine.
What's the Greens' approach to any proposal that comes up for a casino in a particular area?
Well, we would obviously be wanting to work with the local community to find out exactly what it is that your concerns are. The thing that troubled me about what Mr Robinson said about because they may not have, or they don't have control of the upper house at the moment, there is a small clause in the Constitution called that they can take legislation that's been defeated to the Disputes Committee, and a number of pieces of legislation have been taken to the Disputes Committee. The Coalition has rolled on those pieces of legislation and they have come back and have been passed because the government threatens to take us to an early election. So I don't know that saying that they don't have control of the upper house is actually going to stop it, but if we could talk later, I'd really like to start engaging about what we should do, because I certainly don't support another casino. We've already seen what's happened with the Melbourne one.